So in this video, me and the Tone King, we're going to discuss our favourite guitarists from the 80s. And I've kind of turned it into a game as well. I've split it up into two sections, UK Guitarists and USA Guitarists. And there's also a few European wildcards as well. You haven't played the game Top Trumps before, have you?
I have not played the game.
From what I understand, it's a similar kind of concept to baseball cards where you have like the player and you've got like the statistics. So like, say if you were into, I don't know, Minecraft or something like that, you'd have like zombies and you'd have like their strength would be a certain number and their intelligence, and then you'd have like Ender Dragons would be this. And I don't know why I'm going for a Minecraft analogy.
That's because you have kids.
They're ruining my analogy. So we've graded each player over 4 criteria, which are tone, technique, riffs, and influence. This is just our opinion, so we've discussed it between us and we've tried to meet somewhere in the middle on the grading system. There's also gaps in our knowledge as well, so, and hopefully we'll compensate that for each other. So like, for example, I've probably got more of a developed opinion on Gary Moore, and your opinion would be more kind of developed on somebody like Warren DeMartini, for example. Speaking of which, you take your top card over and then you pick the highest number from one of the categories and then you tell me what that is and then I'll tell you what mine is, and whoever gets the higher number wins. So who's yours?
Jakey Leigh.
Jakey Leigh, what a start.
The irony is I'm sitting next to Jake Leigh.
Bargain basement, Jake Leigh. So I got KK Downing.
Tone, technique, and riffs, all 7.
All 7.
And influence is 4.
My highest number is also 7, and it's riffs. So we decided KK Downing was going to get tone, a 6, technique, a 5, riffs, a 7, and influence, a 4, which might seem really low, but you need to consider like the level of influence some of these people have. Like, so for example, like Eddie Van Halen to us, like influence would be a 10. So that's the kind of scale that we're looking at.
Great?
We both got a 7, but you got a load more 7. So you win this one, which I wouldn't disagree because
I like winning.
Out of Jakey Leigh and KK Downing, I have to agree, I think.
The only thing that I'm thinking here between the two is Judas Priest is definitely a little heavier. Like when you think of like Killer of Giants as an example. And yeah, his technique is a little bit more vast.
If you had the opportunity to go to a Jakey Leigh gig or a KK Downing gig, which one would you pick?
Do you mean an Ozzy gig with Jakey Leigh playing or a Judas Priest gig with KK Downing playing?
All right, let's
that changes things a little bit.
Let's say that.
I'd go see Ozzy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know, I'm going to admit this on camera. I hope Glenn doesn't hear this. I'm not really a massive Judas Priest fan.
I would say for every Judas Priest song that I really like, there's one that I really don't.
As in you consider it to be more of a filler or you actually dislike the track?
As a little side note, I told Jake yesterday, he has a really good way of explaining things, like a Google translator over here. Yeah, some of it sounds like filler. I think you're spot on. Some of the songs...
It's not like you don't like it, it's just...
Yeah, like when you hear Breaking the Law, like there's the hook, there's the riff, there's the like you get into it. And then there are some songs that you just don't get into, and I wonder, how could a band like Judas Priest put out a song that's just like, meh?
What's your favourite Judas Priest album?
I'm not that fluent on the albums, I'm more fluent with the songs.
Yeah, I think that says a lot in itself, because I bet if I said to you, what's your favourite Ozzy album?
That I could answer that one better.
Yeah.
I think the appeal to Judas Priest, Tougher Than Leather, that was one of their albums. I think that portrayed who they were. The time that they came out, everyone was wearing the leather bracelets with the silver things. These guys came out like a gang. They had heavy riffs, heavy without being drop tuned, which was pretty fascinating.
Because drop tuning was a thing then, because Iommi was doing that back with...
Yeah, but they just had this presence that backed up the riffs. They were heavy metal.
Probably the first band that you think of, the earliest example of what you think of as... I know, obviously, like Black Sabbath kind of invented the thing, but the sound of heavy metal, probably
Judas
the earliest
Priest.
one, yeah, that was like the kind of
If somebody said, which one of these is heavy metal, I would say Judas Priest. Not that Ozzy isn't. You know, Ozzy had some nice songs. They weren't all heavy metal.
Well, you won that round. I don't know if I'm supposed to go first or if you're supposed to go first because you
How
won.
do you have an American card?
Oh.
Cheating.
Oops.
He had the ace in the...
Yeah. So you're going to claim this as one of your own, aren't you?
What do you mean?
Did you see it?
Was it Slash?
Are you going to claim him as an American? Because I thought we were going to fight about this.
Isn't he an American?
No, he was born in the UK.
Slash was?
He is an English guitarist.
I officially...
Go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is always right. And genuinely, yeah.
I officially learned... I had no idea. Yeah. I officially learned something new.
I'm claiming him as my own.
I don't want to insult him, but when he leaves, I'm gonna look that one up because I never knew that.
Look, what you need to learn is I'm never wrong.
I admire the confidence.
Let's take it as I am right, and
Okay.
I'm going to claim him as mine. Who's yours? Okay.
Warren DeMartini.
Okay, so basically, I've got Slash, and there is one criteria on here that you just can't beat Slash. Influence, 10. Out of all of those, that period of time, I think, other than one person, one other guitarist, he's probably influenced more players than anybody else. So
no argument.
Yeah.
And it's not only Slash, it was everything behind him. The Guitar Center ambassador thing, Gibson, all of it. The hat.
Like what we were saying when we were in the car yesterday, and I said, like, when you think about it, Slash probably single-handedly saved Gibson at the end of the 80s.
He probably single-handedly sold more Gibson Les Pauls than any other artist.
We said, let us know what you think about this, but we gave Slash a 9 for tone, 6 for technique, 8 for riffs, and a 10 for influence.
I got Warren DeMartini. So Warren DeMartini is the guitarist to Rat. We gave him an 8 for tone, an 8 for technique, an 8 for riffs, and a 5 for influence. See, the reason why we gave Slash 9 a tone for, he has an iconic tone.
Yeah.
We were talking, what was your Google Translate? Does a guitarist have their own voice beyond the band?
Yeah.
And a lot of guitarists don't. Slash does, and it's a very strong, unique voice.
Because you can listen to a track of a totally different artist, and if it's like whoever featuring Slash, as soon as he comes in, you're like, this is Slash. Like, you know that. It's so recognizable.
It's his guitar. You know, there's always more between the guitar and the amp, but whatever he did to make his recipe tone, his signature tone, it stands out. People could pinpoint that.
100%. So it looks like we gave Warren DeMartini does well as an all-rounder. Maybe not so much influence, but I think...
I would say the difference between Warren DeMartini's tone and Slash's tone, I think we gave Slash tone because it's good, but he has
so
a voice.
recognizable,
It's so recognizable. Warren DeMartini, while less recognizable, it's just good tone.
Yeah.
So
and it's hard to stand out because so many people had such good tone back then.
When you listen to some of the classic Rat hits, the tone just sounds so good.
I only know the singles. What's your favourite Rat song?
Probably Lay It Down.
That's so iconic. Yeah.
That's iconic. Back for More is good. Round and Round. I mean, there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones.
All right, so we are now drawing. You'll go.
Eddie Van Halen. Okay, I won.
Yep. There you go.
Who do you have? Let's see.
Oh, I've got Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden.
See, now, this is what makes it difficult. Iron Maiden's one of my favorite bands.
Right.
So we have my favorite band and perhaps arguably one of the most influential guitarists of our time.
Yeah. You know what would have been really difficult if I had my earlier card, if I had Slash versus Eddie?
Yep.
That would have been a difficult one. What did we give Eddie?
Tone was a 10. Technique is an 8.
That seems really harsh that we gave Eddie an 8 for technique, but we were considering like up against maybe people like Paul Gilbert or even more modern players like Tosin Abassis of this world, Polyphia guitarists, that kind of thing. I think by the standards that we are at the moment, I don't think it's unreasonable to give him an 8.
And let's qualify that a little bit. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure Eddie Van Halen was mostly self-taught. While there is no question at all that his technique is phenomenal, we were grading technique as almost like how much education do you have, right? How much knowledge do you have, right? How well versed are you in, like you take a Yngwie Malmsteen or a Paul Gilbert. I think we agreed that like their technique is probably, you know, ranks in very high.
But technique and creativity are two different things.
Yeah. In fact, we don't have creativity here, but he'd probably get an 11 for creativity.
Yeah. Such a surprising list. It goes far beyond just tapping and, you know, even the sound of modern guitar today. You know, from that first PV 5150, like that has just influenced generation after generation at this point.
So tone is a 10, technique is an 8, riffs is a 10, influence is a 10.
Yeah. So for Adrian Smith, we said tone was a 7, but something we both kind of agreed with is we're not 100% sure of what is Dave Murray and what is Adrian Smith, because I think you got to be a real kind of Maiden connoisseur
to know. Yeah. Especially we were talking about their synchronized, harmonized leads. Like how do you judge one and not the other? Because they were so in sync.
When I was coming up with this, I did consider doing like Adrian Smith and Dave Murray and like Phil Collen and Steve Clark.
Yep.
But then that kind of seemed a bit unfair, like 2 against 1.
That'll be version 2 of the game.
Yeah, 2.0. Technique, we gave him a 7. It's pretty fair. Riffs a 9. Fair. It's more like we're giving Iron Maiden as a whole riffs as a 9, but then we're like going Steve Harris. Dave Murray, it's like 3 on 1 at that point.
It's like Iron Maiden versus Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. And Eddie still might win.
And then, perhaps.
Influence of 5? Why did we say,
This is a guitar game. And when you think of influence, I would guess that Eddie Van Halen probably made twice as many people want to pick up a guitar than Iron Maiden.
And probably sold way more guitars as well to people that were already playing. So yeah, I think that's fair.
I would agree that he was twice as influential for a guitarist.
I agree with that. All right then, so you're winning at the moment.
Oh, I won that?
You won that,
I have Eddie
well, you got Eddie. Like, you're not going to not win that.
Yep.
Mine is Phil Collen.
Zakk Wylde. Yep.
I feel like this game was rigged, but
I think I won again.
I sorted the cards. I should have fixed it for myself. Okay, so I'm going to go...
You sure Zakk Wylde wasn't born in the United Kingdom?
I got riffs an 8.
I have riffs as an 8.
But I know for a fact there's like a 10 or somewhere else, so you're going to win this. Right, so when we graded this, we had to meet somewhere in the middle. So I would have given Phil Collen higher grades than what this is, but we had to meet in the middle. So just a little disclaimer there. Tone 6, personally, when I go and see Def Leppard, he's probably got one of my favourite live tones. Technique 7, I think that's pretty fair. Riffs an 8, and influence is 6. So maybe it's just for me, it's the tone could have been higher, but I agree with influence being 6 and riffs being an 8.
When we were talking in my garage about this, Zakk Wylde, like Slash, has a very distinct tone. That's what we gave him a 10 on tone, but it's very distinct. Right? I love Def Leppard. Def Leppard, for me, is a great, like beyond great, A+ 80s rock band with great songs. But I don't know, for me, if I ever heard a Def Leppard song and said, what is he playing through to get that tone? Where when I heard Zakk Wylde, it was like, what is he playing through to get that tone?
No, I
think that's why Zakk Wylde got a higher tone. A 10 for tone, 8 for technique, 8 for riffs, influence is 7.
7 seems like a good number. He hasn't sold as much or influenced as much as somebody like Slash, but somebody like Warren DeMartini or something, he's higher than that. So I think that's pretty accurate. Zakk's up there in my top 3 guitarists, probably 4 guitarists maybe. So,
I remember hearing No More Tears. That was like the first one we probably all heard when he came on the scene. That was really hard to ignore.
So Zakk or Jake?
That's like, do you like your son or your daughter better? I like them both for different reasons.
If you had to choose to go and see Ozzy tomorrow, and you could pick to have either Jake, Zakk, or Randy, which one are you picking?
Randy Rhoads.
Oh, not even 1 second of hesitation there.
Randy Rhoads and Iron Maiden made me want to pick up a guitar.
All right, so Jake or Zakk, who are you picking? You get to go and see him tomorrow night. Who are you picking?
I'm going to give you a very biased answer because I've seen Zakk Wylde so many times, and I've seen Jakey Lee once. I'd probably go see Jakey Lee. Let's make it more difficult. What song do you like better, No More Tears or Bark at the Moon?
I think, okay.
That's tough, right?
I think I like the song Bark at the Moon better, but I think I prefer the tone of No More Tears, maybe.
I like that answer. I could get behind that.
But I also really like the Bark at the Moon tone.
I know.
And No More Tears is a good song as well, so.
It's pretty phenomenal.
Oh, man. All right, you win this one.
I got disappointed when I got this.
Who you got?
I have Neal Schon.
Okay, and I got Steve Clark.
Tone and technique were both 8s.
Okay, well, you beat me again. So my tone is 5 and technique is 5. So
I feel like you should win that.
Really?
If I had to choose, I would choose. Why don't I remember?
Why do you hate Neal Schon so much?
I don't. I actually, I respect Neal Schon, and of course, like everyone on Earth, I love Journey and I love their songs. My only complaint, and Neal Schon, if you're ever watching this, please forgive me for my candor.
I like you, Neil.
When I saw you live, I felt like you were noodling way too much. At the end of every song, it felt like you were noodling for 10 minutes, and I just wanted to hear your really good songs.
I mean, it's not quite on the level of a drum solo or a bass solo.
And listen, I say that in jest. I have no problem with Neal Schon. I think he's an amazing guitarist. I think he's written amazing songs, and he's certainly done a lot more on the electric guitar than I probably ever do.
And again, with this one, with Steve Clark, it's hard to determine, like, who's, but unless you're like really.
And the reason why I said you should win is I like Def Leppard more than I like Journey. That's why.
These are the numbers that we came up with. So, like it or not, you're going to win this one.
Okay, let me ask you this: do you like Def Leppard more than Journey?
Easily. Like,
you won that.
Oh.
I'm gonna forfeit that round.
Is this the famous New Jersey hospitality I'm experiencing? So I got Vivian Campbell next, from Dio and Whitesnake and Def Leppard and Sweet Savage, something like that. And my highest number, I've got 2 7s, so I'm going to pick Technique 7.
Nuno Bettencourt, technique 9. I don't think anyone could dispute that. Nuno is a monster guitar player.
I should have fixed this game.
And he's got amazing tone.
All right, so
I can't forfeit this one. But then again, Vivian Campbell's pretty outstanding.
for tone, we gave Vivian Campbell a 6.
We probably should have given him
We
a
should
higher
have given him a
tone.
high. I don't know what we were thinking then. The loudest gig I've ever been to in my life was Last in Line with Vivian Campbell. A few years back, maybe just like pre-pandemic, I'm not sure when it was. My ears were ringing for days. It was literally just his Les Paul, like that Les Paul, into an angle, and I think there was a wire as well, and that was it. And it was just, it's up there with one of the best tones I've ever heard, but it was painful.
Tell me all the bands again Vivian was in.
Dio, I think there was one before, like Sweet Savage, but I don't know if many people know about that. So Dio, yeah, White Snake, Def Leppard.
I feel like for those 3 answers alone, you should win that. I like Nuno more as a guitarist than Extreme.
You can't have a resume like that
and not win.
Yeah.
You can't.
When it's just, I know it's just not just Extreme.
To be fair, these numbers are the right numbers. Once again, you did a good job translating that. You can't have a resume of Dio, Whitesnake, and Def Leppard and not win that round. You can't.
He's a really good singer as well. I don't know. He adds so much to Def Leppard. I've seen him do like a solo thing as well.
That.
6 for tone, 7 for technique, 7 for riffs, a 3 for influence. He even says himself, he's like, I'm never going to be able to play like these other really intricate and technical players because I play so hard. And then he looks at these other players and it's like, they play so light and it's just, I can't play like that. This is what I do.
Nuno, maybe a little less than Slash or a little less than Zakk Wylde, but his tone is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
As a standalone entity, the tone, the technique, the riffs, Nuno wins. But when you factor in all the things that got him on this card, he wins.
It's a sum of like greater than just those parts.
The sum is greater than the parts.
Yeah. So
and the part is greater than the sum.
Yes.
That's the thing. You got that. I'm giving you that one. Richie Sambora.
Oh no! This is like my top 2 guitarists are going up against each other.
Tone a 3, technique a 1, riffs a 2, and influence a 0.
Why are you like this?
Because he's your favorite guitarist. I'm just.
He could be your next door neighbour.
No, I like Richie Sambora. I actually love Richie Sambora.
I was disappointed.
I wish he was still in Bon Jovi. And by the way, I think Phil X is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. So I love Phil X, but I'd still rather go and see Bon Jovi.
People want authentic.
Yeah.
What do you
right, Gibson. So I got John Sykes.
That's fun. Well, my highest number is influence, which is an 8. My second highest number is riffs, which is a 7.
So I think technically you win because you pick your highest number, which is influence. And my influence is just 5 for John Sykes. But my highest number is a 10 for tone. And anybody that says it's not a 10, you're just wrong. It's not subjective, it's objective, and his tone is a 10.
His tone is a 10.
And we've got technique a 9, riffs a 9, influence a 5. So
there are some guitarists that are phenomenal, but they never wrote a good song. He's written many a good song. They both have.
But as a guitarist, he probably hasn't influenced as many people to pick up the instrument as Richie Sambora because of Wanted Dead or Alive. Like, you can't compete with that. Maybe you can, Sweet Child of Mine, that sort of thing. But with what John Sykes has done, you can't. He didn't write Here I Go Again. That was an earlier version that got reworked, so you can't even throw that into
So you think Sambora?
Yeah, that's
definitely more influential. Do you know, like, the old Family Feud style? You ask 100 guitarists who John Sykes is. I'm not sure 100 people would know who he is. I think a lot of people, more people would know who Adrian Vandenberg is than John Sykes.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay. John Sykes did a lot because he was in Thin Lizzy as well. And then in like the late 90s, he was fronting a version of Thin Lizzy that was touring as well. So it was like 2 of the original members.
Thin Lizzy was more classic rock.
Oh, yeah.
Not 80s rock, more classic rock.
Yeah. But again, like when we're talking resume, like if you've got Thin Lizzy on your resume, and I know you haven't heard of the Tigers of Pangtang, but they were one of the more original new wave of British heavy metal bands who were influential at the same time as like Diamond Head and Iron Maiden, that kind of things.
When I think of Adrian Vandenberg, I think of all those ads he was in. Like, there was a lot of push. That's why I mentioned I think more people would... That's my dog howling.
I thought it was the cat in the beams.
It's a zoo.
Yep.
Now do you know why I do my videos at midnight?
I fully understand it.
Good luck editing this out.
All right then, so you win that one. So I've got Gary Moore, and I'm going to go for tone 9. I think everybody will agree. Everybody that knows will probably agree that we'll give Gary Moore a 9.
I know of Gary Moore.
Do you know Still Got the Blues and Parisian Walkway? You know those songs?
Probably. Of course, as a guitarist, I know Gary Moore.
He's held in a very high regard. So.
Yes, and that I'm aware of. I just don't know of any music or songs that I don't know much about him.
He he started off doing the hard rock thing, but then maybe like the late 80s into the early 90s, he's just done a bit of a U-turn and started playing more blues. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at him during that time period, but I think everybody agrees that everything that he's ever done has always been at the top. So I'm going tone 9.
I have Mick Mars.
That's interesting. What did we give him for tone?
8. You know, when I think of Mick Mars, and I think we agree, underrated.
Oh.
He gets a lot of flack.
Yeah.
You know, guitarists are like, oh, Mick Mars, blah, 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 right? We've all heard that. What you can't ignore is how many hits from the beginning. Livewire, Looks to Kill, Dr. Feelgood. I mean, it goes on and on. Girls, Girls, Girls.
I think it's so easy to be overshadowed in that situation when you're in a band with people like Nicky Sixx and Tommy Lee. How do you cut through that? Especially when you're a person with, quite a kind of personality.
Did you ever see the movie The Dirt? But even in the movie, Mick Mars was the guy going to his hotel and going to sleep at the end of the gig. You know, there was a big age gap too. He was older than everyone else, probably a little more mature. I just can't ignore the amount of good songs Motley Crue has put out.
And I know you're a massive fan of their live show.
Carnival of Sins.
Yeah.
That was probably the best concert I've ever seen.
And also, you saw him more recently. And
at the arena tour with Def Leppard.
And he was still with them at that point.
He was still with them. It was right before the John 5 thing. It was Joan Jett, Poison, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard.
We saw him on the same tour, but at that point, John 5 had taken over.
Yep.
And as much as I love John 5, I have seen him with Mick Mars, but...
Authenticity,
yeah. And like we were saying on your live stream the other day, like, is John 5 really the right person?
I think Jason Hook would have been a better fit.
100% Jason Hook would have been the perfect player for that. I've gone for tone 9, technique 9, riffs 7, influence 4, because again, he's one of the, like Mick Mars, I feel that he's underrated in a different way to Mick Mars. I think that he's a guitarist. Mm-hmm. So once you've got to that point, then he becomes one of your influences. But is he one of the people that makes you pick up the instrument? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, Mick Mars, I have tone 8, technique 4.
And again, that might seem harsh, but when you're comparing him to people like Paul Gilbert, Van Halen, Nuno, it's just not as high as those people. There's nothing wrong with his playing. It's still at a very high level. When you're being compared to such iconic guitarists, 80s guitarists specifically, it was a very high standard.
Perhaps one of the higher standards. You know, the guitar solo was really important. Riffs 8, which I think is well-deserved.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, Motley Crue has incredible riffs. Influence is a 4. And we were talking about this yesterday also. I don't think there was ever a Mick Mars signature series guitar. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people bought a Gibson Les Paul because of Slash.
How is there not a Kramer like T-style guitar with a pointy headstock? Or his Strat, like a Relics version of that Strat?
Or even the BC Rich stuff. I remember Looks to Kill, they were using, well, he had a Les Paul, black Les Paul, and I think Nicky Sixx had a white Warlock, or the other way around, one of those two. But they played BC Rich guitars, never a signature series. Gibson, right? Gibson Les Paul Customs, Kramers, Fenders.
I heard somewhere at some point, I may have completely made this up, but somebody asked him about this at some point, and he gave a reply like he felt like he wasn't worthy of it. I may have made that up, but I'm sure that's out there in an interview somewhere.
I would buy, if Kramer put out a Telly with like the glass top or something like that, I'd buy it.
I don't think you'd be alone.
Earlier with Slash, I said all the things that got behind that pushed him. Nobody ever really pushed him up. Slash had Guitar Center, they're the Gibson, you're the brand ambassador, all these big things behind you. On top of being an amazing guitarist, in an amazing band, you had all these external things really kind of pushing you up. Mick Mars never had any of that.
He's got a whole like support system around him.
A whole support system.
Mick Mars is kind of,
no support system. Just a dude out there making good music with a good band. no more.
So can I take the win for this one?
Really? You know, just remember I gave you 2 wins
I do
before,
remember.
but
I feel bad about this now.
Okay, let me ask you this. Who do you think sold more albums? I'm losing respect for you that you even have to think about that.
I'm just considering all the things collectively because of the resume.
You think his resume is bigger than Mick Mars?
Yeah, I mean, he was in Thin Lizzy. And the solo thing. It's almost like he's had different careers at various points as well, because he did the whole rock thing and then he did the blues thing. So he's like, I'm giving you the win. I'm giving you the win.
No. I think Motley Crue's probably double platinum on a lot of their albums. I think the sum is greater here.
No, you know what? You have the win.
No,
I agree.
no.
I agree. You should have the win.
Seriously?
Yeah, 100%.
Motley Crue, do you know how we were talking about the big four, Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer?
Yeah.
This has to be the #1 most influential hair band, let's say, of the 80s was Motley Crue.
Who would we say are the other three if we were going to give a big four?
A big four? Def Leppard would have to be in there. I mean, think of Pour Some Sugar on Me. That was like at the height of the heyday, and they were front and center.
I just see like bands like Rat and Poison more of the kind of the hair metal thing. I don't see Def Leppard as part of that really.
So who do you think is up here with them?
I think it's them, Poison, Rat, but they're way above them.
I would say Poison, absolutely, because when you think about, I would definitely say Poison. We need 2 more then.
You should definitely let us know down below who the big four of. Are we saying hair metal?
I would say hair
Like
metal.
who are the big four of hair metal? Let us know down below because we seem to be struggling here.
Who had a blonde-haired singer? Skid Row was probably at the time. Sebastian Bach.
Skid Row. But again, Motley Crue way bigger than Skid Row.
Of course. Motley Crue, Skid Row, Poison, and one more.
I got a friend who loves Sebastian Bach.
Yeah.
Like more than anything, he's like his favourite person in the world. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. But you have the win.
Leave the 4th one. So you're going to give this one to me?
You have the win on that one. These are the ones where we're going to show our complete ignorance. So we're going to move on to the wild cards, which are the European guitarists. I have Michael Schenker, and I'm going to pick Tone 7.
Yngwie Malmsteen.
You shot yourself in the foot here because I know for a fact that you gave Malmsteen a way lower rating in tone than I did.
I did because his tone is very unique. You know right away. I don't think that's a good thing. His tone is very compressed. His tone or Warren DeMartini all day long. His tone is good for him, but I don't think it's the greatest tone. It's an incredibly compressed, delayed process. It's a processed tone. He has his own voice. You either like it or not.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got Tone 7, Technique 7.
Technique is a 9, a strong 9.
Yeah.
Riffs 4.
Yeah, Riffs 7 for me and Influence 5 for me.
Riffs are 4, Influence is 3. You know, Influence should have been higher. There's a lot of people that really like that Strat. I probably would have bumped Influence up to a 4. Again, we just talked about Mick Mars, nothing, but I know a lot of people that not only own that Strat, but love that Strat. I'm one of them.
Do you think many people actually picked up the guitar because of Malmsteen?
I don't think so.
It seems to be one of those things that you get into once you're past a certain point.
So who wins that? You probably do.
I think I'll win this. I think.
And plus, when you look at the sum version 2.0, you got the Scorpions there. You got it all day long.
Could be a draw.
We're playing Uno over here, Laura.
Uno. Do you like Uno?
I do.
I love Uno.
Yeah? Do we have Uno? Let's play Uno later. Guns N' Roses?
Guns N' Roses, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll take that. Guns N' Roses.
So Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Poison, and Skid Row. Do you agree with that? Guns N' Roses, anyone you would substitute?
That's a good one.
It is. I have no idea who this is. John Norum.
John Norum.
I'm showing my...
I got Adrian Vandenberg.
I wish I got Adrian.
Why don't we swap
Vandenberg.
them?
Okay.
John Norum, Technique 7. John Norum is an
Who is he with?
He plays with Europe.
Oh, okay.
You
told me that
technique
before.
is just unbelievable.
I like Europe. I like their songs. I couldn't name one of the band members though.
I've seen him a good few times. I've given him a 6 for tone, a 7 for technique, 6 for riffs, and a 3 for influence.
So Adrian Vandenberg, tone is a 4, technique is a 4, riffs are a 4, influence is a 3. I think for some of the people out there, why did we put riffs as a 4? The riffs everyone thinks he wrote, he didn't.
Yeah,
right?
I can't name any riffs that I'm sure that Adrian Vandenberg actually wrote. Because I know that he toured the 1987 album, didn't he? But he didn't play on any of it.
And he didn't write it, right?
He didn't write it, but I think he may have done a lead or two on the album after various implosions. What did he do after Whitesnake, do you know?
I don't know, but he has a pretty active Instagram. I've seen his Instagram. He's always touring.
Yeah, I think he did a solo-ish band called Vandenberg for a while.
One of my biggest regrets was during COVID, I sold my original PV Vandenberg from the 80s.
Was it pink?
It was red.
Oh, nice.
I got good money for it. It's like one of those offers that were too good to be true, except the difference is I don't have the money anymore, nor do I have the guitar. If I kept the guitar, I would have still had the guitar.
It's a really sad story.
That's why sometimes you have to keep the guitar, hence my depression earlier.
You know what, actually? Do you want to grab one of these guitars?
Sure.
It just seems fitting that while we're on the subjects of discussing 80s... Oh, wait, so who wins this one?
I think I have to give that to you because...
As we're discussing 80s rock guitarists,
it's all 80s
why
rock
not show
right
off these... So these are the GX1 Pros from Badlands, and they're a company that Tone King here is involved with, and they do like the 80s rock thing probably better than anybody else. And I just thought I'd give this quick opportunity to give you a plug because...
Show the back, they're different Bengals.
That.
Totally different.
Because I think it's one of those things that's really hard to capture accurately on a with a photo. So yeah, just so you've seen them. No, count them first.
Okay, 1, 2, 8. I have 10.
I have 10.
2, 3, 4, 5. 6.
Everyone's a winner.
We need a version 2.0.
Slash ain't
you left one of them out.
I know. The one.
The one.
But then it would have been too easy if he was here, so...
So let's rule out. So Schenker always kind of played these, so he's out. Jakey Leigh, always a Strat. Adrian Smith, always a Strat. Mick Mars never really went crazy. He was always...
Look at the guitar he's holding in that picture.
Yeah, though. Maybe at the time. You tell me. Gary Moore, probably not, right?
Gary Moore.
I don't think Richie Sambora.
No. So we're looking at Phil Collen.
Maybe.
He plays a lot of custom painted Jacksons and that kind of thing. Yep. So I think possibility.
KK Downing, definitely not. No. Zakk, I don't think so. He was always Les Paul.
John Sykes wouldn't. But
Vivian
would have. Nuno's got his thing.
Take the paint off.
Yeah, exactly. He's got his specific thing. Steve Clark was like more Gibsons and that sort of thing. So
he's out.
Neal Schon's done some interesting stuff. I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember when he did his own kind of line of guitars with Jackson? So
they were similar.
Are we saying this guitar or this guitar in this finish?
In general.
Oh, like then 100%.
Okay. Possibly.
He's the one, isn't he? He's the one who's gonna.
Perhaps.
Out of these
so Yngwie is definitely a hard no.
John Norum, I can't see.
/ no-go.
No. Adrian, like,
perhaps.
Yeah, if we're not going by paint finish and that, if this just this style of guitar, 100% he would.
So Adrian Vandenberg, Vivian Campbell. I think Eddie Van Halen is probably no because he always did his own thing. Maybe Mick Mars for a hot sec, but he's still playing these style guitars. Warren DeMartini. I don't know if he ever. Adrian Vandenberg was always more of a solid. Vivian Campbell still. I would say somewhere between Vivian Campbell. Even Phil Collen still has graphics, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he have like the shattered graphic?
And if you didn't figure out what we were speaking about earlier, we were referring to George Lynch, who 100% play one of these guitars.
Absolutely. So I think we're somewhere between Warren DeMartini, Vivian Campbell, Mick Mars, Phil Collen.
Although this video may not have been educational or informative in any way, hopefully it was entertaining. Tone King, thank you so much for being on my channel. I really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.
Thank you.
See you later.
This was fun.
It was fun.
Have fun.
We should do it in 2.0.
2.0.
Any excuse to come back to New Jersey. See you later.